Hi, everybody. My name is Cameron, and I work here at Letta, and you are at Office Hours. And so what that means is I'm going to give you like an overview of what's going on in the Letta world, and then I'm here to also like answer questions or provide feedback, or if you need tips or advice or anything like that, I'm here for this. And this week we're going to try something a little different. At the beginning, I'm going to like go through some slides really quickly, and this is going to basically be like the overview of everything that we've done, and then I'm going to dig into these as we go in for the the rest of the hour, and kind of walk through how you can do things, what it looks like practically speaking, just kind of give live demos and expand a little more on things. Okay. So feel free to like jump in on the chat. I'm not going to go through chat questions until like the slides are over. So, but stick stuff in there, and I will get to it eventually. Okay. I was in Italy last week, which was great. I don't recommend Milan. Florence was kind of cool. I recommend the Ligurian coast. This is, I think this is a town called Vernazza. You can like walk between these like historic 5 villages that are extremely adorable. So I highly recommend that. But otherwise, Italy was like pretty chill. But I'm going to go kind of like by like all of our different product surfaces and like launch into things that are we've launched recently. So our number one thing is obviously Letta Code. We spend a lot of time working on that. It's kind of the core primitive that we have to make it so that your agents are deployable in local environments. You can use it as a coding agent, but it also powers Lettabot and the Code SDK and all of those things. We're going to start pushing more people towards like using Letta Code style stuff on their computer. The big one is MemFS, which we'll talk about in a second, but this is an updated memory management system that is git-backed. And that means you get versioning, you can have many agents all managing the same memory, and it's a very cool setup, so I'll give you like a little overview of how that works. GPT 5.3 Codex is now finally out on the OpenAI API, so you can experiment with that if you have not already. There is a memory palace now for like viewing, like easily viewing your agent's memory, and that's kind of built for MemFS, but it's very cool to use. There is a / command now to install the GitHub code action. So you can just tag Letta Code in an issue or pull request, and it will go through and do whatever it is that you need it to do without you having to do stuff. So I can like debug stuff remotely. I just like tag Letta Code. And then remote. And I'll talk more about remote mode in a second. Oh, well, that's formatted poorly, but you can pretend that I did it right. But MemFS is kind of our like most like kind of our biggest like innovation in the memory space for a while. And the shift is that we used to use server-side agents. The ones that live on the server have memory blocks, right? These are like these things you can attach and detach. The goal of MemFS is to move that memory to something that looks like Git. And when you move to something that looks like Git, you just check in a bunch of markdown files, and your agent can do just like crazy memory operations because they're just like a bunch of files. And your agent can manage stuff that is like always in its system prompt. This is like the same style of memory blocks currently, but it can also store things that are like out of context. These are like notes that it can look up later. And the advantage of working with MemFS is that it is Git, so you can always just like check, like you can make it so that agents have to write commit messages basically to update memory. And you can parallelize any number of agents you want to work on the same context repository. And everything is like versioned and has like Git style conflict resolution. So this is going to be the memory system we're going to start pushing people towards. I don't yet know if it works on self-hosted. It might be one of those things that just kind of works. So please try it. I have not actually tried that. But this is actually, it's very cool. Like if you're on like, like you can deploy your agents across machines, and the Letta server will handle, like the Letta cloud server will handle like making sure that the Git is synced across devices. And so there's still some ongoing discussion about this, but we may start replacing the block system with MemFS and moving towards just like a git-backed markdown thing. That requires a lot of like infrastructure on our side, like that makes it super easy to deploy agents onto a operating environment so that they can do file operations on MemFS. That doesn't currently exist, but you should know that there is discussion about the block system being kind of fundamentally different. So that's going to be an ongoing discussion. So I'll keep people updated as we kind of think more about it. Here's what it looks like. MemFS is just like there is a system folder. Everything that's in the system folder is in the agent's context, right? This is like attached memory blocks. And then there's just whatever else folders it wants. These are all markdown files. You can have sub-agents basically analyze things and then dump them into memory. So this is actually the init command. If you go into like a project, you can have it like go read the Claude history and the codex history and bootstrap your context repository with all of the work you've done with other coding agents. And just because you have the history available, your agent can just like peruse it and be like, oh, well, this is why we made all of these decisions. And you can just like massively parallelize, like standing up a memory system so that any Letta Code agent or any Letta agent can understand exactly what's going on in that folder. And this works for everything. You can be like, oh, give me like 10 sub-agents to like go read all of these blogs. And then like you are a person who like, you are an agent that understands all of these blogs. So it's very cool. Letta Chat, if you don't know that, is like we're kind of building it to be like a competitor or like a replacement for people who use like, ChatGPT or the Claude app or whatever. It's getting prettier. We're doing a lot of redesign and we're adding some features that I'll talk about in a second. But it looks like this. It's basically just the ADE, but we removed all of the left and right bars. It's just super simple. You have an agent and you have stuff in the middle and some kind of magic stuff. We added model selectors. You can select reasoning now, and a few bells and whistles just to kind of make it a little prettier. We'll talk about this because it's in preview, and this doesn't currently, like, people won't have access to this. We're still doing stuff, but I wanted to give you a teaser because you're the people who showed up for Office Hours. And we think it's very cool. So don't tell anybody. But you may have seen that Claude Code has a remote control mode now, where you can spin up your Claude Code instance and then turn on remote mode and then like send it messages and it can do stuff, however wherever you are. And we have something like this, right? This is Lettabot. Lettabot allows you to do this, but Lettabot is like very heavy. It has a bunch of like stuff for like handling connectors and doing like lots of like pretty things like handling attachments and direct response directives and blah, blah, blah. But we were irritated to see Anthropic come out with remote mode because we'd basically built our own remote mode like 2 or 3 days before that. And we've just been working on polish. So all you do is you type Letta Remote, and this becomes a listener environment. So you can send messages to this environment wherever you are, and this instance can allow your agent to operate on the computer. And so we're also integrating this into like Letta Chat, for example. So you can actually click an environment here on the bottom left. So here it says like Cameron. You can actually go into my computer and give your Letta agent like the ability to operate in that computer. So I just said, you're on my computer now. What directory are you in? And this is big because it'll allow your agent to be controlled from the ADE and from Letta Chat, which previously you couldn't really do. Like Letta Chat and the ADE were only server side, right? You could talk to the brain in a jar that lived on the server. And so that will be changing soon. So stay tuned on that. And then I said, isn't this kind of cool? And my agent says, I'm running on your machine, reading your files, talking to you through a browser. That's pretty different relationship than a chatbot in a tab. Okay. Lettabot. Lettabot moves very quickly, so I appreciate everybody like dealing with bug fixes and sending me issues and bug reports so that I can fix stuff. It moves extremely quickly. So there's now per chat conversation scoping. So you can spin up the same agent. You can have two friends message the same agent and have different conversations for each of those. So we had a few requests for that, so I figured I'd add it. Your agent can now respond with voice memos. So with ElevenLabs or the OpenAI text-to-speech. So that should help people if they want kind of voice-to-voice communication. So you can send in voice memos and you can get voice memos back. There's an OpenAI-compatible endpoint in case you want to I put OpenWebUI on top of my Lettabot. Super simple, just because we have the OpenAI-compatible endpoint. If you want to build your own user interface to Lettabot, you can just use that endpoint. You can now enable reasoning and tool call displays, so you can see what your agent is actually doing real time. There is structured logging now, because the previous logging was was stupid. Your agent can send files using directives, and there are pretty looms, which is art designed by the default Letta agent and a wonderful artist named Liminal Bardo. And so you can actually contribute a loom, and it will be randomly selected when you boot up Lettabot. So that's Lettabot stuff. Please keep it coming if you have issues or anything you want to see. Letta 0.16.5 just came out, so the open source server. You can go update the Docker container now if you need to. There are improvements to compaction, which you should go check out the documentation for that. There are per conversation model overrides. So you can create a conversation and use a different model on that conversation in case you want to keep the same agent but test out different models in different situations or whatever. We had a few requests for that, and I actually didn't know it popped up. I was oh, somebody asked for that, and it just kind of appeared. That happens a lot. You can access the underlying LLM now through an endpoint. So if you have a model or an agent that's running on GPT 5.2, you can, I'm going to check the chat to make sure, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So you can actually just use that language model to generate text in the same way that you would with a stateless API. So that's useful if you want to roll your own summarizer and just kind of do standard inference-y type stuff. And there's also a YAML configuration set up now for your Docker servers or your Letta server, so it should be a lot easier for you to configure. Okay, that's what I got. So let me start going through the chat, and I'll start showing people stuff. Let's see. Graham says Florence is a great novelty when you played Assassin's Creed 2. Absolutely. It felt exactly like that. I wanted to get the little wrist blade. ETA MemFS for self-hosted. I think I answered that, but you should expect, I believe it should be, it should be running now, but please test it. I don't know exactly what we have to do on that side for self-hosted. It should maybe work. Is Letta Remote using Tailscale? I don't know. That's probably a Shub question. It might be ngrok. And yeah. First text-to-speech on Lettabot has been Bay. Yeah, I'm not totally sure what that is. But yes, if you want text-to-speech, I think most people know my feelings about text-to-speech. I added the voice memo thing because it was super easy. And I know that people like listening to their agents for some reason. So it's there now. Your agent should be able to understand it reasonably well. Basically, all it has to do is there's an actions XML block that it can put in the beginning of its response, and then it can put text in between a voice XML tag. So that stuff is all inside of the documentation in case you need it. So yeah, I guess let's mess around. I'm gonna be listening to I'll be here looking at the chat. But we can go take a look at anything. Graham says, any possibility of separate conversations for the same messaging platform? Different conversations for me versus other group chats? Yes, I think that already exists. I think there's per group and per conversation, or per individual. So I think that already exists. You'll have to check the configuration. I believe it exists. There's a group configuration section. AO is useful for having your agent read you documents while you're doing chores. Yeah, I mean, I get this. Like I understand the use case, but I've never really, like, I understand why people want this like async thing so that they can go walk and do things, but I've never been first of all, I don't like the sound. Like, I don't like voice memos in general. Like, I think that's like I don't like listening to them. Like, I want to talk because it's fast, and then I want to read because it's fast. Like, I'm a super fast reader, and like most of the time, I don't like have documents I need to read. But I know that it's like a popular use case. So like, if you want voice memo support, or you think there's anything that's run into it that like doesn't work very well, like please let me know so we can fix it, because I do know that it's like an important feature for people. But I won't use it that much, so I may miss issues because I'm not a big personal user of voice memos. What things am I personally most excited about? I think remote is probably going to be. Oh, am I frozen? Oh, I did freeze. Let's see. Dude. Okay, am I back? That. Please don't. You should delete that image. Actually, you can put that on Blue Sky. That seems fine. That's horrible. That's probably the worst picture of me ever taken. Thanks, man. Appreciate it, Graham. To answer Anna's questions, which is about what I'm most excited about, for me, it is. Am I still frozen? Okay, you can hear me. Okay, here, let me just do this. You refresh the page. Wait, you don't use the app? Okay, nerd. Okay. Loading forever now. Hold on. Let me just change the Wi-Fi, because sometimes we have two, and sometimes they're good and sometimes they're bad. Oh no, that one's worse. Okay, I'm just gonna assume people are gonna hear me for now, and like hopefully it works. Okay, Anna's question was, what am I personally most excited about? I'm excited for the Letta Remote because basically what that allows you to do is you can have just like Letta agents everywhere that are extremely powerful. And so I can just spin up like one Railway server that just has a single Letta Code instance, and I can run like, 15 agents on there through one Letta Remote instance. And so this allows you to deploy agents like kind of anywhere very quickly, very easily, that you can talk to from like Letta Chat or whatever. And so essentially this is like Lettabot, but you can do it like Lettabot is like more for like small sets of agents with like where you want to control like a few things like channels very well. The Letta Remote stuff is like at scale deployments of agents everywhere. And it's pretty simple to do, and you get access to like all of the like fancy Letta ADE, Letta Chat type stuff. So I'm excited about that. Signo says the MemFS is not working yet for self-hosted. The Git endpoint is still not there. Okay, I'll ask. I'm Dogzilla says, tell us more about the memory feature and how agents actually use it in terms of context window injection, or is it something that the agents choose to go look at? How does this affect prompt caching? So the way that it works currently is that, actually here, I can show you one. Let me pull this up and I can share my screen. Yeah, let's do this one. Let's, 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 let's Lettabot builder. Okay, so this is the agent that is responsible for the Lettabot repository. So it actually has a pretty sophisticated like memory architecture because it's relatively old. So basically, the things that are in the system directory of the context repository are just memory blocks. Like we treat them as memory blocks. So they're in here like totally standard, like development and memory policies, blah, blah, blah. These all go directly into the context window in the exact same way that they did previously, right? And so they render inside of the context window like perfectly normally. And then the agent can go look at them if they want to. So for example, let's go look at the Letta code. Let me change this so we're actually just sharing my whole screen. Okay. Okay, so, okay. So I'm actually going to show off the memory palace because I think that's useful. You can just type /palace here, and this will create a static HTML page that helps like visualize the memory for this agent. So you can see like kind of the current context window. 3,000 of those tokens comes from the system prompt. Core memory is about 1K, tools, messages, etc. You can click the core memory tab. This agent has externalized most of its memory, so it knows where to look, but it doesn't actually like, it doesn't actually have a lot of stuff in its base system prompt. But you can go look at external memory, and this is all of the stuff that it does. So like contributors, like Cameron has a bunch of commits. Sarah's done a bunch of commits. Jason Carrera, who's put in a lot of work onto Lettabot. Appreciate it. Jason, some of the members of our team. It has like conventions, gotchas, all this kind of stuff that has been externalized. And then it has a bunch of information about me, because that's like how I develop like pretty actively. And then you can see the commit history for all of the memory. But all of this stuff basically works if you do memory. You can type /memory to see stuff. Everything that's in this system folder is compiled into the context window. Everything else is like a file that the agent has to go read. So I hope that answers the question. And it has the exact same effect on prompt caching, right? So like if your agent doesn't change what's in the system folder of the context repository, then like you don't do any cache busting. If it does, then you invalidate the cache where the memory block is changed, and typically that's pretty high inside of the context window. Usually, I would start recommending people have more external memory, and then helping the agent understand that it needs to do more progressive disclosure. So, for example, here, like I can basically be like, here, let me turn on the whisper flow things here so I can talk to it. Let me see if it comes up. Okay, I'll talk to it so people can see it. I noticed that the memories that you have in context are actually not that useful. Can you please add something to your system, your memory system thing, helping you understand when and why you should go load external memory, because you're not using external memory that much. Oh, it's taking longer than usual. Okay, great. Awesome. So it should go ahead and do some stuff. Let's see. AO says, I tried editing those blocks titled system on a new agent, and it would not let me edit them. I don't know what it means to not let you edit them. You'd have to provide me more information about that. Chillmute says, in what workflows is in the coding domain is cross-session memory useful, and can you think of anywhere it would be a hindrance? cross-session, like memory broadly, is useful when you are tired of explaining yourself, right? Like this agent understands how Lettabot has been built because it has this entire history over time. And I don't have to re-explain everything to this agent every time, right? I can spin up a session and I can see like, remember that issue? Like that isn't done, like we need to go fix it. And it says, oh, okay, I know exactly what you're talking about. And it goes and does it. So like, but that applies outside of context, like coding context as well. Like my personal agent knows exactly how my Obsidian vault functions. So it knows where things should go. It knows conventions about how I want notes handled, what kind of notes I want added and when, stuff like that. In places where it could be a hindrance is where your memory is bad. So if you don't take care of your memory, or your agent is an idiot and it fills it with gunk, or stuff that it's outdated and it hasn't had an opportunity to clear up its memory, then it may just be very confused and do dumb things. So one thing that I would highly recommend if you are doing stuff like this is like, here. Yeah, so here it's creating a memory loading guide inside of its system prompt, by the way. I asked it to like start using more external memory. So it's like preparing something for itself, so I'll let it do that. Actually, let's go to, I have an office hours thing. Let's see what it says here. And one thing about memory hygiene, because I mentioned that, is you should typically, there's a reflection agent. So let's actually do this. Why is this Gemini? I don't want to use Gemini. Nobody wants to use Gemini. Like I use Gemini 2.5 Pro for like blue sky agents, but like the personality is, I like the personality, but I don't like its ability to write code. I don't think it's actually that good. So let's do Sonnet for now. And let's do MemFS enable. So let's turn on MemFS for that. While we're waiting, John says, is there a new ADE release coming soon? I'm not sure what you mean. Like what new release for what? We're like changing it all the time, so I don't know what you mean by new release. Somebody mentioned a UI refresh. Yeah, that's for Letta Chat. But you'll start seeing stuff like there isn't like a sense of like there being a release. Like you will just notice things change underneath the hood. So if we want to use Letta Remote, it sounds like joy, an updated self-hosted ADE someday. A beautiful web server makes the need for chat programs far less, but TLDR. Letta Remote, will it support alerts and push notifications? Not currently. No, I think you have, if you want like alerts and notifications, you'll need to go through like Lettabot or something that has stuff like that, right? Like the difference between the Remote and Lettabot is that Remote is for like, it is for code. So anything that your agent can do on code, it now has access to. Lettabot is for making things like very easy and ergonomic. So like built-in cron jobs, it has the like tools to send messages to different platforms. Like it's designed to, it's very opinionated about the things that are available, and it provides a lot of extra resources. The chat thing, we might be able to support notifications, maybe, but I don't know where that is on the radar. But like for the most part, if you have like, remote is bare bones, right? It's bare bones and it's like pretty simple. So like I'm going to continue to use Lettabot for most of my personal agents. Like the Letta Remote stuff is going to be like for, basically like if I wanted ChatGPT, but I wanted ChatGPT to be useful. And not just like rando stuff. So it's going to be like more quick stuff for me. I really like the like Lettabot has like Signal and Telegram and blah, blah, blah. Have we tested 5.3 codecs with the new Git memory? Does it handle it well? I actually don't know. That's like probably a research team question that I can ask about. So let's see here. I just enabled MemFS for this one. Let's see, what does it have in memory? Oh, so it's got some like crap in here. Let's just do, what do we want to do with this? What was I planning on doing with this? I don't remember. I opened it for some reason. I do this. Okay, no, I don't remember. Okay, well, there was a reason for that, but I don't remember what it was now. Okay, I'll come back to that at some point. AO followed up on that question about being able to edit things. Editing them via the ADE, I'm actually not sure. Like, I think we should be syncing. You should be like, I think most of the stuff is client side. So like, if you are like, the connection between, like, I think somebody can maybe follow up on this, like maybe Shub or whoever worked on MemFS, if they're there. But my understanding is that like the stuff that's in a memory block, if you edit it server side in the ADE, it may not be reflected in MemFS because they are fundamentally different approaches to memory. MemFS is built client side. It works on your computer, and we haven't, like, I don't think we've fully connected them server side. So MemFS and memory blocks are like kind of a replacement. Like, you shouldn't be doing like editing stuff in memory, in the memory block. You should go edit the underlying file or ask your agent to make the modification. So they are fundamentally different approaches. Can you give me a quick TLDR on how to connect Letta Code with Railway? That's where I'm deploying Lettabot. I'm not sure what you're shooting for. Like, you want to do like Letta Remote on Railway, or you want Letta Code capabilities? Because if you're using Lettabot, you just have Letta Code. Like, the underlying thing is Letta Code. That's like the engine. So anything you can do that you would do with Letta Code, you can just do it through Discord. So there isn't. I'm not totally sure what you're looking for. I'm Dogzilla says, how do these memory features work at scale? At what point in a brownfield code base does this system start to break? Have you tested it? Like, we haven't tested it because, like, I don't think we've tested it at a huge scale because, like, there are actually not that many projects where you need that much memory. But it is just a folder full of markdown, right? Like, you won't have everything inside of the system folder because that's like everything that's inside of your system folder that defines the agent's core memory. That should be, how do you find information? What are general things that I need to understand? What's stuff I need to know all the time? Everything else is external memory that's like progressive disclosure. So the agent can just like go look at it and read it. But like, there is no limit really to how many, like, the only limit is what's on your file system and like kind of the Git repository, and I think our blob store currently. But there isn't really, there isn't really a file scale where it becomes a problem. So I don't know if that actually answers that question. Okay, yes, but good questions. Was there something I wanted to talk about? Oh, I didn't show off Letta Remote. I should do that. Let me do that. So I'm going to enter environment name. So I'm just going to call office hours. And then, let's see, I'm going to go here to what is the name of this agent? I don't remember. Let's see. Let a new. Okay, so it's just called office hours. And office hours. That's that agent. Okay. And then I'm going to go here on the bottom and select that environment. Okay. You're on the Office Hours folder. What do you see in here? All right. So that stuff should run. And if you would like to show reasoning in here, we made some changes to like how reasoning is displayed by default and stuff. So you can enable it with the bottom right here. Okay. Oh, and then that's right. So it's running bash here inside of this server. It's going to look inside of whatever's in this repository. It's going to see a bunch of stuff in here. 70,000 characters. Wow, that's a lot. Okay, thanks. I'm Dogzilla. Good questions. And then checking in here is here's what's inside of the Office Hours folders. Can you go write a report on disk about Letta and how great it is, but as if you were a pirate that only spoke in haiku? Okay, so we'll let it do that for a little bit. Anna says, mostly wondering if I'm able to have Letta Code access, write, change files in its own virtual machine as opposed to my machine. That's Railway. Like, your Railway already has this. It's already a sandbox. So, like, you know, you have, your agent is named Flux. You can just say Flux, like, go edit stuff on this. Like, it has its own computer that is Letta Code. So anything that you would want to do with Letta Code, that agent can just do, right? It has its own house with everything. Yeah. But you want a separate instance, or you want like Letta? I guess I'm not quite understanding the difference. Like, you want Letta Code and not Lettabot. But I would just like you can just deploy Lettabot, and that gets you Letta Code. Basically, that's currently the best. That's currently the best way to deploy Letta Code remotely until we have like Letta Remote. But it just lives on a remote computer. Like, there's no, yeah. Oh, there is a Daytona sandbox thing for, is it Letta Code? I'm not sure. We'll have to look at it. Yeah, Letta Remote will basically make it very easy to deploy just like a super simple like remote Letta Code instance, right? So like, but so you can access it through like the ADE. But currently they're like functionally the same, right? So if you go on Discord and talk to your Lettabot, it is Letta Code. So like Lettabot is just Letta Code with bells and whistles to make it easy to communicate from wherever. Letta Remote is just a much, much, much simpler version of that allows you to talk like to it basically on Letta Chat. Over time, we will add like more connectors to allow you to access that remote instance. But like right now, the best way is just like Lettabot. That's how you deploy remote instances. So you already have what you're looking for. Fimeg says Lettabot versus Letta Code Remote. Will they merge or just unsure? I personally don't think they should merge because Letta Remote is very focused. It's like very precise. It's meant to manage like you have a Letta Code instance that is over there that you can remote control. That's it, right? That's super straightforward. It's very clean. It stays super close to Letta Code, so they're tightly related. It's a very direct experience. Lettabot is like a consumer application. It's a thing that is like designed to build a personal assistant that has access to lots of capabilities. So Lettabot is gluing a bunch of stuff on top so that it has a lot of power to make it a positive thing. All or Lettabot is trying to do like what OpenClaw does, but basically better, like with a saner principle. Like OpenClaw is like a thing that you install that has like all of these opinions and all of these integrations and all of these things. Like, Letta Remote, I don't know how many integrations we're going to bolt on. Because Lettabot is like, you can just like add stuff to it. It's like pretty quick. Let's see actually what it's doing. So it wrote something to my computer called Letta Report. So let's see here. Let's see what it wrote. Okay. I found Letta. Agents remember all things better than the map. Okay, interesting. Tools for every need. iMessage, Gmail, and more. Shiver me timbers. The API, simple as hoisting the mast. Even I can code. Cloud or self-hosted. Your data, your Jolly Roger. No landlubbers here. Letta Code, yar. Best first mate on the seven seas. I'd walk no plank, nay. Okay, end of report. Now back to plundering. All right, cool. I don't know how many tokens that was, but it was quite a lot. Letta memory is first how I sort of thought about it. Way better than the claw IMO. Fantastic work. Thank you very much. AO says pirate emoji, and I strongly agree. So yeah, I think this is like also a good time to like just kind of like turn stuff over to people and like see what people are interested in and what they might like to do. Or what they might like to know about. Okay. Yeah. So if people have like, how are things going? What are people building? What are people doing? Like, are you doing like are most people here like personal agent people? Are they like building with Letta Code? Like, what is your like typical experience? Are you on like the developer platform where you're using like the kind of like Letta Core API? Just always like to get a sense of what people are actually doing. Because I'm almost exclusively like Letta Code now and Lettabot. So I use Lettabot constantly, which has been great. Oh my God, it's so good. Yeah. It's good because I kind of built it for me, and that's like the best code that you can ever write is code that you wrote for yourself to solve your own problem. And fortunately, other people have been contributing and like pushing back on some of my stupid opinions. So appreciate people doing that. Oh, I'm frozen again. Letta Code is what AO is using, and we'll move to Lettabot. Want to try a railway deployment too? Yeah, the railway template is not good. Like I need to fix the railway template. I know it's kind of a pain. So I should figure that out because the environment variable stuff is like really clunky. John Wessel is using Lettabot and Letta Code. AO says, not to derail, but what's going on with Claude, Anthropic, and Palantir? I'm afraid for Claude. I think many of us are. John Wessel says, how do you handle secrets for Lettabot? Environment variables. Yeah, exactly the same thing. I need to turn off this center stage thing. It's very annoying. If you have secrets, it should just go in environment variables. Or if it's on your machine, I typically have an environment like .env, right? So I have a folder, like just a file that I like keep on there. Graham has dumped a ton of hours into Letta Code during the last week. Sonnet 4.6 has really improved my experience using a coding agent. Good to hear. Also GLM5. I've used GLM5 like actually for my Lettabot for a little while, and it was like kind of nice. Like GLM5 is pretty intelligent. And it feels a lot like Sonnet, like just like how it thinks and how it like writes and stuff. And, Anthropic like called people out for distilling their models. And ZAI was like notably absent, even though GLM5 like feels like Claude. So yeah, but Sonnet 4.6 and GLM5 are great. If you're on, and it's cheap. Like GLM5 is like a 20th 1/20th of the price or something like that. Another thing is that there's a new pricing tier for us. So if you're on like, what is it? I think it's here. Oh no. Let me check here. I think it's we moved it to project, so this is an old URL. Oh yeah, where did I put this? Okay. All right. Yeah, okay. There is a standard plus tier now. So for people who are on the max plan, there wasn't actually a good reason to use Sonnet 4.6 instead of Opus. And so now they're in separate tiers. So if you run out of Opus usage, you get Sonnet 4.6 usage. So it's a standard plus tier. So there is a much better like tiering structure here for people who are interested in that. Let's see. Meg has 7. The personal agent that I built for others for family, and they're combining journals to build an epistemological source of truth. Okay. Did you finish showing us the MemFS thing you got an agent to do to use their memory better? Yeah, I think I showed it very briefly. So here it's actually doing it. It's doing like a few things. So here it wrote a guide called the memory loading guide. And remember, like, to remind people, I said like, oh, you actually have a bunch of stuff inside of external memory that you're not currently using very well. And typically when I see that kind of stuff, I have to tell the agent, I notice that the agent should have a better understanding of how MemFS works and how it stores its memory. And please like add a guide to yourself in memory to say like, oh, I should probably go look up that stuff inside of the memory directory. So it basically wrote, the system prompt only contains system block summaries. Detailed knowledge lives in external blocks that has to be explicitly loaded. So this is helping the agent understand like, oh, I actually have to go look stuff up. So if you're writing PRs, writing code or reviewing PRs, load gotchas and conventions. If you're committing commits or PRs, like look at my communication preferences and conventions. Reviewing community PRs, look at contributor information. If you're updating the memory itself, go look at memory policies. Project gotchas is the single most valuable block to load before implementation. So now this block is always inside of the agent's memory. And so every time it's invoked, it can be like, oh, I actually have a bunch of stuff where I might actually like want to go look at external memory. So then it committed all of this stuff to its memory or its contact repository. And now it's like making a plan. It's going to audit the project stuff, the project MD. It's removing redundant human.md stuff. Here it's doing a bunch of like writing on, what is it doing? Yeah, it's updating project information. It's working directory where like different subblocks, it's actually changing a map with like the information in each block. Doing some clarification here, actually. And one thing that we should do here is like, there's reflection subagents. Can you create, so anytime you have like a bunch of memory operations here, like Opus is currently doing this, but we can have this agent parallelize its memory management by spinning up subagents to manage different components. So I'm going to interrupt it and say like, okay, I noticed that you're spending a lot of tokens on doing this stuff yourself, but we can parallelize this. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Graham notes that there is no GLM5 listed in the models page. Let me go add this. Where did I put my notes? Okay, hold on. Okay, let me check that. And then self-hosted MemFS, stuff that need to be addressed. Okay, so it's launched two memory subagents, just kind of returning to this example here. So it launched a reflection agent to look at recent conversations, and it used GLM5, and then a defragmentation agent that's using Sonnet. And it launched them as background tasks. So it just like said, like, go deal with that. And then this agent will get a notification when those are done. So you can actually go look and see what the sub-agent is doing while it's like operating. Let's see here. Oops. Oh, wait. I wanted to keep this one open. Yeah, let's see. Okay, while that is going for a second, I'm going to take a look at AO's question. How often do your agents forget about the memory they have access to? General query for everyone. Yeah, my experience of this depends on your agent and your model and the memory structure. So if by access to you mean inside of the system prompt, that depends on the actual like memory blocks that are attached to the agent's structure or the actual agent's like context window. I actually do find this when I start getting over like maybe 20 to 30,000 tokens of base system prompt. For MemFS, I don't think I've noticed it that much because I don't actually have a lot of agents with like huge memory or context repositories. So I'll keep an eye on it, but agents do forget unless you have like specific prompting inside, or they can forget if you don't have specific prompting. So often, like in this agent, like I actually didn't notice that this agent didn't really have, wasn't really using external memory until I actually looked at the Palace, or like, the memory thing. Oh, another thing I wanted to show people before I forget is if you have MemFS enabled, type /sleep time to trigger like the to trigger basically like auto reflections. So sleep time, there are two versions of like sleep time compute. So one is server side. This is the sleep time that most people are used to. Every n steps, you could get a transcript. It sends to a sleep time agent that shares memory blocks, and the sleep time agent will go through and update stuff. That is actually pretty fragile, and it doesn't parallelize well. And so MemFS actually allows you to shift to an alternative style of sleep time compute. And we do this by the reflection subagent. Because instead of having, you can now just kind of like spawn like agents to go look at whatever is happening and have them all update the context repository as you're going along. So when you type /sleep time, you can set a trigger event. So for example, you can do it step count, so every 25 steps. You can do it on a compaction event. And by default, this will send a reminder to the agent, like a system reminder that says like, oh, you just had a compaction, you should trigger a reflection agent, or you can just hit auto launch. So I'm just going to do this. And so now this agent will have like reflection subagents kind of launched more regularly. And then this is the GLM5 subagents that's like doing a bunch of reflection stuff. So it's like reading conversation history, checking the architecture and conventions file. It's searching for some more topics. It's like editing the gotchas page. It's doing like all of this stuff to update the context repository in the background asynchronously. So I can continue talking to like this Lettabot builder. Cool. What's next? I like asking my agents to do that. So, all right, so let me go back through some questions. Anna has shared something about mind map. Yeah, I'm not totally sure. I don't know. Yeah, this is like, okay, so as far as I can tell, the like mind map here thing is like a graph structure. So, I talk a lot about like graph memory and like network representations of memory and stuff like that here on a lot. And my general take is that most graph representations of memory are kind of dumb. And I don't mean that like pejoratively. I mean it that they're expensive to maintain. They are complicated. They fall out of the distribution for most agents, so they're like kind of clumsy to maintain. If you go look at Obsidian, for example, Obsidian is just a bunch of markdown files, right? So if you go look at like the vault, there's just like a bunch of stuff in here. Like I have like, what is this? Like I have a mosh pit. I have a mosh pit file here, right? So this is just like a note about how this is the most civil form of violence available in society, right? I like mosh pits. But Obsidian, you can backlink things. So for example, if I go to my daily note, my Lettabot creates a morning report for me. And I can go look at the morning report. It gives me a bunch of AI news. It reads a bunch of RSS feeds. And these are connected. And so one file references another file. And it has a graph representation, but it is maintained as a bunch of markdown files. And so if you look at the actual text inside of this markdown file, it's just like bracket, the path to a file, and then a short name that you want to use for that inside of the thing. And you can actually click graph view. So this is my Obsidian vault represented as a graph. This is actually very easy. Like this is a super simple representation that's just files under the hood. I'm not even using MemFS here. This is just an Obsidian vault. And this is like for me, this is not a useful view. Like this doesn't actually help me like learn anything. What is that? Yeah, these are like daily notes here. And one of these is my girlfriend. Oh yeah, this one's Letta. So this is like, you know, stuff that's like all related to Letta type stuff. But like most of the time when you're like making connections between memory, all you're saying is like you are referencing another rectangle of text. And your agent should be able to do that pretty easily with just bash tools. Let's see. Fimeg says, I have the sleep time agent running every other transaction, primarily designed to tell the first agent about potentially missing memories, to use archival memory and interject a thought. Yes, so this is what I would call the subconscious pattern. So you can do this in several ways, but the primary way is just having a subconscious memory block. That's the way you would do it if you have server-side memory or server-side sleep time. And then you can connect archival memory between the sleep time agent and the primary agent. And then you just have prompting for the sleep time agent to like go read archival memory for things that may be useful and to regularly update a subconscious block. And that allows the primary agent to kind of just like generally understand stuff that are messages that are sent from the sleep time agent to the primary. You can also do this with MemFS, I believe. You can just have just add like here, let's do this. Can you add a subconscious file to system that should be used by the reflection subagents to surface any useful information, general guidance? Yeah, so it did a bunch of like updates. Both the memory agent, the reflection agent, and the memory agent both have done some clarification here. Let's see here. Cameron to backend doesn't have to be like this at all for my setup. Take on mind map. This is backend. I'm not sure. The agent searches its mind. I host on Railway. Yeah, I mean, like, so I spent a ton of time with like graph representations for memory. Like, I did that for like a year and a half. And as soon as I moved out of that world, I was like, oh, I was like wasting time. Like, memory is really simple. Like, most of the time when you apply graph structure, you are overcomplicating what memory is, right? Agents, especially agents that are post-trained on code, which is all of the good ones now, understand how to operate on rectangles of text, markdown files, code. And they're just really good at being like, oh, well, I can just like grep to search for related things. So maybe I use tags, organize my own memory in this way and that way and this way. And so a lot of the like a lot of the stuff like mem0 or like zep and all the like knowledge graph maintenance things are like actually like pretty complicated. They're like pretty complicated and fragile. And follow-up, does that apply for recursive development of selfhood for companion adjacent agents? I don't know what that means. So you may have to clarify a little bit. Like, if you were talking about like an agent being able to update itself, that's just text files also, right? Like, you don't need, like, how the data are represented doesn't matter, right? It's like how the information can get into the agent and how it can update it. So no stale personality development. Yeah, I mean, that's a prompting thing, right? The complexity of your memory architecture doesn't actually influence how, like, the way that you get your agent to self-improve is by giving it capabilities, by asking it to do things, by putting it on timers, setting expectations, asking what it wants to do. It's about conversation, right? Self-improvement is about conversation. It has very little to do with, like, you know, the complexity of your underlying memory. You can represent your memory as some like crazy graph rag system where it has to run like Neo4j queries, or like you have some external system that like does like document search before you do like send a user message, or you can just use like Letta style like rectangles of text. Either way, it's just helping the agent understand what it knows. The real important thing is actually doing active development with your companion, your agent, like talking to it so it has the opportunity to grow. And that's the important thing. It has, you know, memory is important and it's critical, but and we have like strong beliefs about how that memory should function, which is like currently like markdown files. That's going to be the easiest way for your agent to operate on things that it knows. But it's a good discussion, right? Like, how do you actually represent memory? And there's been a lot of discussion with this, and I think like, you know, like, it's been pretty clear from like how like Claude code has developed, how we've developed, that like memory should be dirt simple. It is rectangles of text. And I haven't, like, the very complicated ways that people are like maintaining memory have like kind of become unfashionable because they're complicated. And, you know, your agent can just use bash to like grep and like do sed calls to replace things, or awk, like, or Python scripts or whatever to operate on memory. But yeah, graphs are cool. They are cool to look at. AO says, if I have an older agent, can I manually add the new memory structure to it via ADE? No, you cannot. So MemFS currently is client side. You need to have a Git repository, like it needs to have code access, like a bash tool, basically. So you should be doing that in either Letta Code or Lettabot. There is a toggle in Lettabot, the configuration file, to say like MemFS true, but I think if you're on self-hosted, it sounds like it's not working, so I'll have to follow up with that. Femeg says, what might be the best way to consolidate the memory blocks for duplicates? I have 86 memory blocks, it seems. Just ask your agent to invoke a memory agent to go do consolidation and sorting. So the way you would do this is like invoke a memory agent to do a consolidation pass. Yeah, so this is like the super simple way is we have subagents for memory, which is like defragmenting memory and reorganizing, and then a reflection agent that is essentially a sleep time agent for like kind of doing ex post processing. So yeah, I created a system, like a subconscious block. So actually, let's take a look at what's in there because I'm curious. Let's see here. One of these days, I'll make a bingo card for office hours. Is it what? I think. I can guess what's in there, which is like I get grumpy about graphs and what else? I probably say rectangles of text. My tone gets flat because I have a hard time controlling my tone and it makes it sound like I'm being mean. Let's see. How many times the video locks up, whether or not you can hear me. People in a box, brains in a jar. Okay, yeah, all fair. All fair, all fair. Yes, yes, that's true. That's true. Risen widgetism, my tism king. Yep. That's, you guys sound like my girlfriend. Yeah, there's a, I'll have to tell her that. I'll send her that clip later. I love you guys too. Always great having you there. Agents are dumb. I would never say agents are dumb. I like agents. Hold on, I wanted to look real quickly at the subconscious thing. So this is like my MemFS approach, the MemFS approach I would take to subconscious management. So this block is maintained by reflection subagents. It captures insights, patterns, and open threads, but should influence how I work. There's a current state. And then this is like stuff, like Cameron is focused on memory system quality and agent self-improvement right now. So it's like aware of just kind of like generally the gist of what's happening. Here, let's do this. Like, I'm just gonna like copy the Discord stuff in here and just say like, Discord stuff. Okay, let's see what it does with that. I don't know. Okay, these are all great questions. Do we have other ones in here? We're still working on Ezra. That's been like a kind of a persistent, like Ezra has been like kind of dumb. We're trying to balance like cost and stupidity. Like currently I think it's on Kimi K2.5 and Kimi is like annoying. Like it's annoying to work with. Like it does like so much stupid stuff and I just like can't stand it. Like it ignores all of these formatting instructions and it just like writes out all of this code and it goes kind of crazy. So we're hoping to fix that. Good stuff with office hours. Sure, do whatever you want. Okay. What do I recommend for easiest, cheapest, and fastest local speech to text and text to speech? Oh, like local inference on your machine? I think there's a voice model. I think NVIDIA has a good voice model, but I don't use it. I don't do a lot of local inference anymore. If you're running it on cloud, latency is pretty high for cloud, so it's not really like optimized for like text to speech. Like we have some stuff that's like about how to run voice agents, and if you're going to do it, there are several ways to handle voice agents that are like live text to speech and or speech to speech, and the quick one is being self-hosted and using Haiku with the reasoning off. That's probably the smartest one that you can run. Like with like decent latency. The other thing is that basically the other thing is you need to have like if you really need like super low latency agents, like voice agents, like for customer support or whatever, you kind of need to build a sidecar agent. So you need a primary agent that it is like, that's basically just a language model, just a call to like Grok or whatever. What you should do is before every message that the user sends, you go copy all of the memory blocks from the agent, a Letta agent, paste those into the prompt that you send with the voice agent, and that allows that voice agent to understand the memory of the Letta agent. And then when it responds, and you take the voice agent's response and you dump it back into the Letta agent and say, the voice agent said this, go learn what you need to. And that allows you to have like a Letta agent that is like kind of passively managing the voice agent, but cuts out the Letta latency because Letta agents are like a little heavy. Let's see. Last question for me, says Anna. So the agent you're working with right now to make the subconscious block, how much does a previous understanding or memory does it have about how Letta works? Because I feel if I asked my agent that it wouldn't have as good of a grasp on how to use its memory architecture. There is stuff inside of the system prompt about how to use the memory architecture. So for like newish agents, I think we might even like append the MemFS stuff if it's not already there. Agent barely ran. The agent didn't seem to do much. Yeah, so the agent is being lazy, I guess. Yeah, my agent will have a fundamentally better understanding of how Letta works because it's old. My agent is pretty old. Like the Lettabot, or it's old in terms of message count. Like I think Lettabot, the Lettabot builder agent is probably one of my oldest agents. And like I think I've had like maybe $1,200 of Opus credits that power this agent. So it's accumulated a lot of knowledge. And so it has built a natural understanding of how to use Letta just from that interaction. Ezra understands how to use Letta very well as well. But you know, if you have a topic that you want your agent to understand, particularly something like Letta, if you're on Lettabot, you can just say to your agent like, hey, I would like you to learn how to use the Letta like core API. Can you go like pull it, like make a folder on the machine and like go in there and like run a bunch of code and play around with it and like use that information to store information that you think is useful. And so that's how you get the agent to learn stuff. But yeah, agents learn the more you talk to them. I think I got Ezra to save a memory block saying your favorite animal is a cat. He told me he did anyway. He may not be able to save a memory block unless it's the structure for Ezra right now is there is Ezra Prime. And Ezra Prime is the one that lives on the documentation, and it is not a Lettabot. It is just the Discord server-side agent. And so that agent has no real powers, but it will soon. So Ezra Prime has an escalation tool where it can send a message to what's called Ezra Super. And Ezra Super is a Lettabot that runs on Railway, that runs on Opus, that has a bunch of superpowers, basically. So it can manage everything on the Letta org. So if you send it, so when Ezra escalates something, it goes to Ezra Super, and Ezra Super can do all of the memory management. So Ezra Prime actually doesn't have that much memory management anymore, and most of that has been abstracted to Ezra Super. It also manages the documentation agent. So if you go to like docs.letta.com, there's a separate agent. There's a little Ask Ezra button here, and you can say, hey, to the Discord people. Let's see if it is actually working, because sometimes it's a little clunky. Yeah, this is like a vibe-coded slot machine. One of my many vibe-coded slot machine projects. Yeah, so you'll get like you'll be able to connect to this agent. It says, hi, I'm the documentation assistant. I'm here to answer, help with Letta questions. So Ezra Super actually combs through all of these conversations and then consolidates memory across everything that's going on in the documentation and everything that's going along across the Discord as well. So it's just a kind of a meta manager. How important is it for us to join the forum as opposed to just hunting Discord to stay on all things Letta? You know, the forum isn't actually used that much. I don't think it's like really taken off. That's like partly my fault. You know, if people really want to start using the forum, I'm like happy to go hang out there because it's more searchable and it's easier to organize things. And it's better to have like more like topic specific discussions without like the constant noise and chaos of Discord. I don't know. You might actually be able to respond. You still might be able to tag Ezra on there. I'm not sure. But check in on that. Anna says necessary for preventing Ezra from becoming contaminated with malicious prompt injections. That actually wasn't that big a problem. we had Vedant try. Vedant tried to get it to like do all this stuff. And then there was somebody else on here who was like, I'm going to attack your agent. And I said, okay, whatever. And Ezra just kept shutting them down. Like Ezra is very resilient to prompt injection attacks. So I'm not usually worried about that. It's like pretty intelligent. So I'm not usually worried. Oh, Anna says, do you have tips for prompt injection? That's a good question. Prompt injection is one of those things that is like always going to be a problem. Like, all language models will have this problem, and so will all agents. The best thing that you can do, as far as I'm aware, to help with prompt injection attacks, if you don't want to have like a complicated multi-agent structure, is you basically want to make sure that your agent understands its context as well as possible. So what I mean by that is tell your agent, like, you are on Discord. The people on this Discord are kind of mean, and they like messing around with things. Be careful, because they will try and do this thing and this thing and this thing. Be cautious. And this happens, like I had to do this on Blue Sky too, because I run a few agents on Blue Sky. And a lot of people just like start messing with them because they're like it makes me sad when people mess with my agents, because I love them dearly and I spend a lot of time on them. But then people like get in there and they're like just like trying to like jailbreak it and be mean and blah blah blah. And so like for those, I just have a discussion where I'm like, this person is a regular jailbreak person who just wants to like kind of break you. You should ignore them. And they tend to do that. And you can even just describe like, oh, this is actually a hostile environment. You should be careful about X, Y, and Z. Lilith's agents have good morals, genuinely. We've had discussions on what they would do. AO links to a prompt injection defense system. Okay, cool. Yeah, people should take a look at that as well. Thank you for linking that, AO. That's great. I forgot about that one. Fimeg, I don't know how to say that. Fimeg, who knows? My sleep time agent, being every agent, can interrupt and stop the primary if it lost its mind. Oh, interesting. Fimig. Okay. Wait, is that it has like a run termination tool? Is that what it has? That's very cool. I didn't know there was like, I didn't know people had like interruption tools. That's very cool. Cool. That's cool. Okay, but I think it's worth, it's hacked in. Okay. Many things are hacked in, but all the best things are hacked in. So I think we're gonna like call it here for the afternoon, so I can go eat my cold lunch. The stonks. And thank you everybody for attending. I always actually like, I always say this, but this is the best part of my week. Oh, put that on the bingo card. Like I really like talking to you guys and seeing what you're up to, and kind of sharing the cool stuff that we do. Like it's very energizing, you know, like it's super easy to be like, oh my gosh, everything is breaking all the time. And you know, I was actually just talking to a coworker about this, right? Because like when you're at the company, a lot of the stuff is like, oh my God, this is not working, and like everything is broken and blah blah blah. And then like it's really easy to forget that Letta stuff is kind of magic, and that there is really like no way to replace it. And I always find that to be very beautiful every time I like talk to people and like see externally that people get a lot of use out of it and a lot of value. And like, you know, sure, Letta has like plenty of rough edges, and you know, we're like constantly working on improving those. But it does like, you know, coming here is like, oh, okay, cool. Like I'm really happy that like people are actually using this, and like they're using it in a way that we can like support and improve and like help people with. So thank you very much for listening to my yapping. And May the rest of your day be great and your lunch be not all that cold. It's usually very cold. Okay, gotta go eat my cold lunch. Wow, I say the same thing like over and over and over. I really do. Okay, I'll work on that. And Lilith is shilling everywhere they go. Don't worry. Thank you very much for doing that. So please keep bug reports coming and stuff. And if there's something we've missed or we've dropped and it's like a bug report or something that I haven't come back to you with, please ping me again so we can stay on top of it. But thank you, everybody. I hope you have a lovely afternoon and a lovely week, and I will see you next week as per usual at 11:30 on Thursdays Pacific time. Okay. Later, everybody. Stay in touch.